Hi there and welcome to my review of Loveless. So Loveless is one of the biggest films of the year. It's coming out of Russia. It's by a famed director whose name I'm almost certainly going to pronounce wrong, Andrey Zvyagintsev. He's best known for Leviathan, which premiered in 2014 at the Cannes Film Festival. It won Best Screenplay and then it won Best Foreign Film at the Golden Globe. That was an incredibly sobering masterpiece. It's one of my favourite films of recent years. It's a real great takedown of corruption and bleakness in Putin's Russia. It really examines all the things that make Putin's Russia in some way bad for the people, and also the way that families break down and all this other stuff. And Loveless is a return to these sort of ideas, but I think if anything this is an improvement, which by the way is strong words because Leviathan, as I say, is one of the best films of the last few years. This is surprisingly as good. So Loveless is an incredibly bleak work. It is not a film to watch to get comfort from. It ultimately basically posits questions which make the audience uncomfortable and which, when you really think about it, are a damning indictment of the world we live in. As the title implies, this is a world where there is no love. In fact, one of the things that's most crucial about Loveless really is that when you get to the end of it you realise that this is kind of what our world itself is. It's a film that shows us the way that people act and the way that people can act in ways that in many ways will harm others, but in subtle, small ways. One of the things that makes Loveless so good is that it seems on the surface to just be a simple story. The story follows a husband and wife who are going to go through a divorce, and this leads to many problems in their lives. They really hate each other, they really hate each other. If this was a pulpy film, if this was a genre film, I'd fully expect one of them to murder the other. That is how much they hate each other. And they have one child who is unloved by either parent. Neither parent wants to take the child after the divorce. So the child runs away. And then the rest of the film is about the parents trying to find the child who has run away. And what the film then enters is this territory where you understand just how nasty they are, not because they don't care, but because of how little they're willing to give up because they care. So they're willing to look for their child, but they both know that ultimately if the child were never to be found, their lives would be happier. And so it ends in this way which goes, well, what would they sacrifice? Because they could sacrifice a lot to save this child, to find this child, to look after this child. But how far would they go? And as they want to separate and as they want to do different things with their own lives, it touches on all sorts of things that I think represents the worst parts of mankind. The film shows the cyclical nature of relationships and how people can be in a bad relationship and they will ultimately return to that bad relationship or start a bad relationship with somebody else. If somebody is in a relationship which makes them unhappy, they'll go again and again and again. They'll even lose a child to have another relationship that is as bad. And that is kind of the nature of Loveless. Loveless depicts a world where there is no love, where there is no caring. In fact, the characters in the film that might be good, that I think are inarguably good people, they're so few and far between in a way that it's almost a case of everyone else has let them down. In this film, this is a film where Russian society has fallen apart. This is a film where the parents let the child down, where the state services let them down, the police let them down, where the church lets them down, where employers let them down, where grandparents, every single aspect of society lets the child down. And what's really crucial about Loveless is that I think that's the point. I think just like Leviathan was a damning indictment of corruption in Russia, Loveless is a damning indictment of a society which will willingly sacrifice a child if everyone else's lives improve. It's almost about the failures of individualism. It's about how individuals themselves all go for their own happiness, and as a result, society and community falls down. It's almost a plea to say you can argue individualism is better than collectivism, but it's not always the solution, and it has its own faults. And that's kind of what's interesting about this film, is that there's so many angles to approach it. The other thing that I found so interesting about Loveless was just the sheer bleakness of it when you really get to the end of it. I've described Leviathan before as being like drinking vodka, and I think the same metaphor applies to Loveless, because Loveless is like drinking a bottle of vodka. You sort of get to the end of it, and you're depressed, and you're not fit, and you're just utterly beside yourself with bleakness because you're out of your mind, and then you realise you have no more vodka and it's even more depressing. That's kind of what Loveless is. You get to the end of Loveless and realise wow, that was depressing and harsh and bleak. And then you realise that is exactly what our world is. And that's even more depressing. But I think that's the beauty of it in a way, is that because it has no truly beautiful character moments where the characters are seen in any light that makes them look good or look beautiful, it makes it just unrelentingly bleak. And so that kind of makes it fascinating, because if films are designed to make you happy, this is the antithesis. This is a film which will make you sad. And not sad in a way of, oh, I feel sorry for the child or sorry for any other character who suffered in the film, but you feel sad just that this is what we are. And we all know that this is what we are. We all know that we would choose happiness even if it makes others sad, to some extent or another. And so watching these characters being given the ultimate opportunity, the ability to never see their child again, in return they can have a relationship that they think is happier, that is quite a logical extension of that. Would they do that? And would you do that? Would you abandon a child to have a happy relationship? But as Loveless itself shows, relationships end up being cyclical anyway, and people will end up in bad relationships. But people will take the beginning of a relationship being good over a child, and that's kind of true. And so that's what this film is. This film is just that. It's a truly depressing look at how society works. And it's not just Russia, it applies to all aspects of society. It's the fallacy that you should look for happiness in a world of sadness. That if everyone else, if the world is depressing, you should search for happiness. And maybe to some extent that isn't a fallacy. Maybe you should genuinely do that. Maybe that is the way to live life. I'm not saying that's right. What I'm saying is Loveless posits those questions, or I found it did. On top of that, the performances are across the board great. I think the cinematography is absolutely stunning. The cinematography is very beautiful in many ways, which contrasts with the utter bleakness of the storyline. While the film's not nasty, it's just harsh. And it's harsh in a way which I think is true. And because there's so much truth at the heart of Loveless, I think it really, really matters. This is a film where everyone has no passion, has no caring. This is a world where everyone is selfish. And what's really crucial is that the rot that is shown in Loveless is shown to also go to the top. It goes to the top of businesses, to the top of religion, which is, once again, something that Leviathan touched on. But Loveless is almost more insular in that it shows kind of, it's less big scale, the rot that is shown. But the implication of the rot is much harsher and much more wider. It's not just the rot of Russia, it's the rot of Western civilization. It's the fact that with such rugged individualism comes the fact that we will as a society reject certain things and certain people. I mean, there's a question of how many children would you sacrifice for happiness? Would you lose just one child? Would you lose one child if that one child was someone who was sad and depressed and no one really liked anyway? Even if you yourself would go, oh, someone else will, therefore I won't. It's the fact that everyone does that. It's the fact that society then falls apart because nobody makes a commitment. And that's kind of what it is. And I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not saying that Loveless does either. What I'm saying is Loveless will tell you that's a question. And that is why it's one of the best films of the year. You don't need escapism when a film is this good, because it will spell out the futility of life. And yes, it's depressing, and I can't recommend this to anyone who wants an uplifting movie. But if you want a movie that will make you think, that will make you really question society, I think this is one of the real gems of the year. Unquestionably, this is clever cinema that is intelligent, that is thought-provoking, that is deep, that is meaningful. I absolutely adored everything about this film. The more I think about it, the more interesting things I find within it. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. One of the best of the year, unquestionably. If you like this review, please give it a like. And if you want to hear me talk more about this shit, subscribe. I'll post more reviews. Thanks for watching, and Loveless, I think it's an absolute masterpiece.